beast did not belong here. Its tracks tore through farmland like scars, furrows smashed, livestock scattered, soil gouged to bedrock by claws meant for mountains, not fields. Farmers whispered prayers, children hid. Eternia's peace had been breached by something ancient and angry. So the Crimson Falcons were sent. They did not hunt for glory. They hunted so others could sleep. They tracked it through broken fences and scorched wheat, through terrified villages that watched them with awe and dread. The sun bled across the horizon as they reached the open plains, endless grasslands where the wind cut like a blade. The creature stood there, massive and horned, its hide layered like living stone, eyes like burning coals, each breath fogged the air with heat. Korgan knelt, pressing his hand into the soil. It's wounded, territorial, exhausted. Good, Braxus said. That makes it predictable. Thandor tightened the straps on his shield. Predictable, still killed. They spread out. Astra took to the sky, harrying the beast with sonic bursts, her wings slicing air and attention alike. Sareth vanished into tall grass, laying traps with silent precision. Zyra scattered spike mines disguised as stones. Korgan uprooted massive rocks, stacking them where the terrain narrowed. They didn't charge. They shaped the battlefield. The beast charged Astra. She led it straight into the grass maze they'd prepared. Its weight triggered pits and caltrops. It roared, tearing free, but every step slowed it. Braxus struck its flank with a thunderous hammer blow, driving it toward Korgan's rock wall. Thandor sprinted in. He hurled his shield, its rim crackling with energy, into the creature's knee. The beast staggered. Korgan dropped the rockfall. Dust and debris pinned its movement long enough for Sareth to strike tendons with precision cuts. Still it fought. Still it raged. Still it endured. Hours bled away in sweat and blood and dust. The sun dipped low. The plains drank their struggle. Finally, exhausted, the beast collapsed to one knee. "Now," Thandor shouted. They swarmed it, cables and enchanted ropes flying. Astra anchored from above. Korgan wrapped its limbs. Zyra sealed joints with hardening resin. Braxus slammed iron stakes into the earth, binding the cords. The beast thrashed. The Falcons held. It could kill a village. It could kill them. But it would not. Orko arrived in a pop of purple smoke. "Hi, everyone. Wow, that's big." He tried to open a portal. He opened a door to a fish market. He opened a window into a bakery. He opened something that screamed and slammed shut. The Falcons stared. The beast blinked, confused. Hold on. I got this. Probably." Finally, with a dramatic flourish and 3 wrong incantations, Orko opened a shimmering portal showing distant mountains and wild forests, the creature's true home. Thandor nodded. "Now." They pushed. The beast vanished through the portal, ropes cut mid-stride so it landed free, roaring into its natural kingdom. The portal closed. The plains were quiet again. Exhausted, soot-covered and bruised, the Falcons collapsed in the grass. "Orko," Braxus groaned, "please, palace now."
"No problem. Easy portal. Super simple."
He spun. Magic flared. They stepped through. They emerged in front of Castle Grayskull. Thunder cracked overhead. The skull-faced fortress loomed, silent and judging. The Falcons stared. Silence. Thandor slowly turned his head toward Orko. Braxus crossed his arms. Zyra pinched the bridge of her nose. Korgan just sighed like a collapsing mountain. Orko floated awkwardly.
"I was very close." Thandor sighed, adjusting his cape.
"Next time, write it down." Orko nodded, pulling out a notebook titled, "Portals I Shouldn't Mess Up Again." The Crimson Falcons began the long walk home. The Crimson Falcons returned to Eternos as they always did, silent, scorched, and carrying the weight of things that did not belong in fields or forests. They slipped through hidden corridors carved between the palace walls into the private barracks that only King Randor and the Falcons knew existed. Armor came off in heavy clanks. Steam rose from hot water as ash and blood washed down ancient drains. A meal followed, thick bread, roasted meat, something strong enough to quiet the tremor in their hands. For a moment, there was peace. Then Captain Tila appeared at the threshold. She leaned against the stone archway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "I need a favor," she said. The room went still. The Falcons no longer answered to her. Their oaths were sworn higher, deeper, only to Randor. Tila noticed the hesitation. "I'm not giving orders," she added evenly. "I'm asking. Clampchamp would normally do this, but—" Braxus glanced at Thandor. Thandor rose first.
"We'll take it," he said. Braxus sighed theatrically. "We just showered."
They donned white and gold dress uniforms, formal, immaculate ceremonial armor that shone beneath torchlight, not war plate, not the crimson of judgment, something polished, diplomatic. Inside the throne room, Queen Marlena entertained guests from Earth. Music echoed against vaulted ceilings, strings and flutes performing something strangely familiar yet transformed, medieval instruments weaving modern rhythm into ancient cadence. 4 women in elegant dresses laughed and spun around the queen, goblets raised. Their movements were fluid, uninhibited, hips swaying, hands reaching, eyes bright with wine and nostalgia. Braxus stood rigid near the great doors. Thandor stared forward. The dancing grew more expressive. "This," Braxus muttered under his breath, "is not how courtship rituals are conducted here." Thandor cleared his throat. "The music is compelling."
One of the women heard him.
She pivoted mid-spin and approached like a predator who had spotted an amusing target. "Well, handsome armor," she said, grabbing his hand. "It's a medieval cover of Lose Yourself by Eminem." Thandor blinked. "Lose yourself?" She pulled him into the circle before he could object. Braxus straightened. "Thandor." Queen Marlena waved a hand dismissively, smiling warmly. "He's fine."
Braxus hesitated. Then another woman seized him by the arm.
"You too, big guy." Moments later, the 2 most fearsome warriors in Eternos stood stiffly among spinning dresses and laughter while lutes hammered out the rhythm of ancient earth rap translated into bardic flair. Thandor attempted something resembling a tactical sidestep. It became a dance move. Braxus looked like a warhammer attempting diplomacy. Minutes passed. Then more. Eventually, the guests wilted like flowers in summer heat, collapsing onto cushions, giggling, then surrendering fully to wine and exhaustion. Thandor and Braxus carried them, carefully, respectfully, to guest chambers. No one spoke of what had transpired. They returned to the hidden barracks expecting darkness and rest. Instead, every falcon stood armored in full crimson and gold. Helmets on, weapons ready. The room felt tight. King Randor stood at the center. He did not look amused. All eyes shifted to Thandor and Braxus as they entered in white and gold dress uniform. For one fragile heartbeat, they thought they were in trouble. Randor's jaw tightened. Then he spoke. "Get suited up. Immediately." Relief barely had time to register before his next words landed like a hammer. "We've been summoned." A pause. "To Castle Grayskull." The room shifted from tension to purpose. White and gold clattered to the floor. Crimson falcons were needed again. They marched in full crimson, not through the palace halls, but downward into the mechanical heart of Eternos. Into Man-at-Arms' personal laboratory, where gears whispered and ancient tech hummed beneath stone. Clampchamp stood waiting beside a circular apparatus, bristling with conduits and arcane emitters. "You're late," he said flatly. Braxus glanced at Thandor. "We were detained." Clampchamp didn't ask. He activated the device. Energy spiraled inward, forming a tearing ring of light. The air warped. Stone groaned. A portal stabilized with a thunderclap. "Move," Clampchamp ordered. The Crimson Falcons stepped through. Thandor had faced beasts, war machines, fire, and blades, but nothing prepared him for Castle Grayskull. They emerged inside the ancient throne chamber, vast, cavernous, older than memory. Pillars rose like petrified giants. The air itself felt heavy with history. The throne of King Grayskull sat at the top of towering steps carved from primordial stone. Thandor slowed. The others did not. High above, the sorceress stood from her throne. She descended the steps as though gravity answered to her. White and gold feathers framed her form, winged headdress, serpent motifs, regal, terrible, radiant.
She bowed before King Randor. Then her eyes found Thandor. The world narrowed.
"Who are you?" The voice was not sound, it was presence. Thandor blinked twice. He nearly answered aloud.
"My..."
"Do not speak. Think." His pulse thundered in his ears. "What is your name?" "Thandor of Eternos," he thought clumsily. Silence. Then, "Why does someone with a heart so pure stand in a force trained to do what others will not? To do the things the masters of the universe cannot be seen doing?" The words struck like a blade slipped between ribs. "For the people of Eternos," he answered in thought. "For the king. I serve at their pleasure." A pause. The weight of her gaze lifted. That was when Thandor realized the chamber was silent. Everyone was staring at him. He swallowed. "My apologies," he said quickly. "I've never been here before. I am taken aback." Braxus leaned in, whispering through clenched teeth. "Get it together." Clampchamp stepped forward. Long-range sensors detected a Horde vessel. A projection flickered to life, an immense jagged silhouette drifting in deep space. "It's ancient," he continued, "older than anything we've seen on Etheria. It recently began transmitting an automated alert. That's the only reason we found it." King Randor folded his arms. "How do we reach it?" "The sorceress will open a portal directly onto the ship," Clampchamp said. Braxus tilted his head. "Objective?" The sorceress spoke, her voice echoing against stone. "There is something inside, something of immense power." She looked again at Thandor. "Because of the distance and the strain required, I can send only 4 Falcons." Murmurs.
"And it will be Thandor who must find what I sense."
Silence.
All eyes turned. Braxus frowned. "Then 3 more go. Who?"
Randor stepped forward. The sorceress shook her head. The king understood. "Braxus will go." Braxus nodded once. Randor scanned the line.
"Korgan!"
The Gar stepped forward, silent as a falling wall. "Astra Vale." The avian inclined her head, wings twitching once. Clampchamp continued. "Secondary objective. Retrieve all possible data from the ship's logs. The Horde rely heavily on robotics. Even ancient units could be lethal. Move cautiously." Thandor nodded grimly. He remembered the assassin bot, the cold precision, the near-fatal encounter. The sorceress raised her staff. The portal will remain open for 20 minutes. The air tightened. After that, it will close. She did not soften the truth. There is no guarantee I can open it again for several days. Understanding settled over them. This was likely one way. No one stepped back. Clampchamp added, while the portal remains active, anything on the other side could cross through. If something does, the remaining Falcons will engage. Too much for the Royal Guard, Braxus muttered.
Not large enough to summon the Masters, Clampchamp confirmed.
That, he said, looking at them all, is why you exist. The sorceress lifted her staff. Space tore open. Darkness waited beyond. Thandor stepped forward first. The sorceress did not send them immediately. The corridors were vast and solemn, carved from stone older than kingdoms, once noble, once glorious, now worn but not diminished. Vines as thick as a warrior's arm crept through cracked masonry, weaving in and out of brick like nature reclaiming a forgotten crown. Branches split pillars and yet somehow strengthened them. Bark fused with stone in a tapestry of time. Roots curled across the floors like sleeping serpents. Dust lay undisturbed in some places, yet the air hummed, alive, watchful. Power saturated everything. It pressed against armor, against bone, against thought itself, not malevolent, immense, unmeasurable. Thandor felt it in his teeth. They reached a circular chamber deep within the castle. The room was wide and domed, its ceiling disappearing into shadow. Intricate symbols were drawn across the floor in white chalk, concentric circles layered with sigils that shimmered faintly as though remembering being fire. Clampchamp and Braxus shut the enormous wooden doors behind them. The impact echoed like a sealed tomb. This, the sorceress said, stepping into the center of the markings, is where you will make your stand, should anything come through. Her eyes lingered on each Falcon, then on Thandor. I will remain with you, her voice whispered into his mind. You will not walk alone. He nodded, though the sensation unsettled him. Her thoughts were not invasive. They were precise, gentle even, but the intimacy of it unnerved him. His mind had always been his own battlefield. She raised her staff. Ancient words spilled from her lips, measured, resonant, older than Eternos. The air twisted. A portal tore open. Yellow and black energy spiraled outward in jagged arcs, the familiar rift from legend and battle. It crackled, unstable but contained. One by one, the Falcons lowered their visors. Crimson helmets sealed with a hiss. Short swords rested at their hips. Laser pistols opposite, rifles locked across their backs, short shields braced along their forearms, and hanging ready, the heavy maces, brutal and unmistakable, relics of an era that understood simple destruction. Clampchamp stepped close. When you're through, he said, voice low, you move fast. No hesitation. He looked at Thandor. Bring them home. The portal roared. Go! Braxus stepped first. Thandor followed without pause. Transition was violence without pain. One heartbeat they stood on ancient stone. The next, cold metal beneath their boots. The smell changed instantly, stone dust and moss replaced with ozone and stagnant air. The warmth of torchlight vanished, replaced by sterile chill and a low mechanical hum that vibrated through their armor. The shift was disorienting. Gravity felt wrong, thinner, slightly delayed. Sound carried differently, muted and hollow. They stood inside a corridor bathed in dim red lighting. Emergency lights pulsed slowly, casting long, crawling shadows that moved with every flicker. The air tasted old, recycled, dead. Korgan stepped through behind them. Astra last. The portal snapped shut. Silence swallowed the space. Thandor turned slowly. Above them, Shapes, small, dark, hanging upside down from exposed piping along the ceiling. Little bat-like imps, sleeping, wings wrapped around themselves like cloaks. For a moment, no one breathed. Red light pulsed again. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, walls lined with dormant consoles and sealed blast doors scarred by age. Somewhere deep in the ship, something shifted. The hum changed pitch. The Falcons tightened formation without speaking. The mission had begun, and the ship felt like it was watching them. "Start the clock." Braxis's voice came low and steady over the comms. Helmets flickered to life, heads-up displays igniting across each visor. A countdown appeared. 20 minutes, the clock began to tick. Thandor. The sorceress again, soft, distant, yet impossibly close.
"Through you, I can feel it, the source of power. It is far, further than I expected. Go aft."
Thandor swallowed, still not used to the way her voice lived inside his thoughts. "Back of the ship," he said aloud. Korgan's wrist device hummed softly as he scanned the structure. Data flickered across his display. "The core systems are central," he said quietly, "but there are multiple clusters of dormant units along the route. So far, inactive." Braxis nodded once. "We split. 2 teams, 18 minutes, rally point here." He didn't wait for acknowledgement. "Move!" Korgan and Astravale advanced at a controlled pace, boots barely whispering against metal. They turned a corner and stopped. The hallway ahead was filled. Dozens, no, hundreds of Horde robotic guards floated motionless in the corridor, suspended like corpses in water, limbs limp, eyes dark. Astra tilted her head. "Gravity plating failure." Korgan nodded. "And the only direct path forward." A pause. Astra glanced at him. "Do you trust me?" Korgan didn't even try to hide his displeasure. "Do I have a choice?" She grinned, then scooped him up. "Absolutely not." She ran. At the threshold, gravity vanished. Her wings snapped open. The corridor became a graveyard in zero gravity, floating bodies drifting inches from their path. Astra maneuvered through them with surgical precision, gliding and twisting, careful not to disturb a single unit. Korgan remained rigid in her arms, enduring. They reached the far end. Gravity returned with a dull thud. She set him down. Korgan straightened his armor slowly. "We never speak of this."
Astra smacked him on the backside. "Of course not, Princess." He rolled his eyes.
They reached an elevator shaft. The doors were pried open with effort, revealing darkness stretching endlessly downward. Korgan scanned. 300 meters. Astra blinked. "What?" 60 stories. She nodded once, then picked him up again. "I hate this," he muttered. She stepped off the edge. They fell, then glided. The shaft was tight, barely enough room for her wings to function. She adjusted constantly, brushing metal, angling her descent, while Korgan scanned the structure mid-flight. "Faster," he said, "but controlled." "I am controlling," she shot back. At the target level, they extended limbs outward, catching friction against the shaft walls. Sparks flickered as they slowed and slammed lightly onto the correct floor. Korgan forced the doors open.
Beyond, a labyrinth. It stretched endlessly in every direction.
Massive industrial machines filled the chamber, towering constructs of pipes, pistons, and pulsing cores. They moved slowly, methodically, like the heartbeat of a dying giant. Steam hissed, fluids flowed through transparent conduits, glowing faintly red. This was the ship's skeleton, its failing heart. Small, robotic imps scurried between machinery, thin, skeletal things with spindly limbs and dim optics. They worked tirelessly, adjusting valves, tightening connections, maintaining the bare minimum needed to keep the ship alive. They did not think. They did not question. They maintained. Astra exhaled softly. "This place," Korgan gestured forward. "Stay low, stay quiet. This is where mistakes end missions." They moved carefully, timing their steps with the rhythm of machinery, ducking beneath piston arms, sliding behind coolant tanks, pausing when imps passed close enough to hear their servos whine. Every movement was deliberate, every breath measured. At last, they found it, a terminal, dark, unused, forgotten. Korgan knelt and connected his wrist device. Lights flickered to life. Data began to flow, streams of it. Endless. Astra dropped to one knee, rifle raised, scanning. Korgan's eyes widened behind his visor. "You wouldn't believe this," he whispered. "This ship, it's a weapon, planetary scale. It's been everywhere, cataloging systems, civilizations, weaknesses." He swallowed. "This is extinction-level information." The data streamed faster, then stopped, dead. Korgan jerked back instinctively. "What?" Astra coughed lightly. "You might want to look at this." Korgan turned. The imps had stopped working, every single one. They stood perfectly still, then, slowly, they turned their heads, all of them, watching, trying to decide, friend or foe. Korgan exhaled slowly. "No," he said. "No. Things are not great right now." Thandor and Braxus found the elevator. Dead. The shaft yawned upward into darkness, its mechanisms long since rotted into silence. "No time," Braxus muttered. They moved on. The stairwell was worse. The steps hovered, individual slabs of metal suspended in midair, each one humming faintly, as if barely remembering its purpose. Braxus looked up the endless climb and huffed. "Well, this is different." He cracked his neck. "Really glad I never skipped leg day." Thandor sighed. He had. Frequently. They started up, step after step, breath tightening, armor growing heavier with every rise. The air thinned, not physically, but in feeling, as though the ship itself resisted their ascent. Along the walls, art, massive framed pieces, each housed in real wood, polished and preserved with unsettling care. The craftsmanship was undeniable, each frame carved with precision, each image painted with reverence, and every single one, violence. Horde troops marching over shattered cities, worlds burning beneath crimson skies, armies broken beneath iron boots. At the center of many, Hordak himself, towering, monstrous, leading charges, slaying beasts the size of castles.
Glory!
If you believed in it. Thandor slowed for half a step, eyes lingering. "It's all they celebrate," he murmured. Braxus didn't look. "Victory," he said, "even if it's built on bones." They climbed. "Tell me something," Braxus added between breaths. "You miss the pits?" Thandor smirked, despite himself. "Sometimes." "The challenge?" "The coin," Thandor replied. Braxus laughed, breathless. "Honest man." They reached the top. The door opened to something else entirely. The hallway beyond was regal. Gold and silver filigree etched into the walls in intricate patterns that spiraled like living things. The floors were polished to a mirror sheen, reflecting the pulsing red light in warped, elegant waves. Columns lined the passage, each adorned with metallic inlays that shimmered with cold authority. This was not war. This was power dressed as beauty. Thandor exhaled slowly. This feels like a path to a throne. He laughed, but it came out thin. His lungs burned. His legs trembled beneath the armor. If a fight came now, he pushed the thought away. They moved, because that's what Falcons did.
This way. The sorceress again.
Guiding. They followed her unseen hand to a massive set of doors, ornate, reinforced, sealed. A digital security panel blinked faintly at its side. Thandor stepped forward immediately, tools already in hand. "Give me a second." Blaster fire erupted. The door screamed as plasma rounds tore into it. "Brah!" Thandor dove aside as the reinforced structure fractured under repeated hits. Braxus didn't stop. He stepped back once, then charged. The impact was thunder. The doors shattered inward as Braxus crashed through them, splintering metal and collapsing onto the ground in a heavy roll. Silence followed. Thandor stood, brushing himself off, and walked in slowly. He extended a hand, pulling Braxus up. "You know I had that," Thandor muttered. Braxus rotated his shoulder with a loud pop. "We don't have time for had," he exhaled. "Less than 10 minutes. Thandor nodded. They turned. The throne room was vast, cold, still. At its center sat a figure, 8 feet tall, armored in ancient Horde plating, polished yet worn by time. It sat upright on a silver throne, unmoving, regal even in death. In its hand, a spear, long, elegant, beautiful in a way that felt wrong. Its surface shimmered faintly, veins of energy pulsing like a heartbeat. "That is it," the sorceress whispered into Thandor's mind. "That is the source." They approached slowly. No movement, no breath, just presence. Braxus reached first, gripping the spear.
Let's take...
He pulled. The weapon resisted for a moment.
Then came free. Thandor moved to the side of the throne, climbing carefully. He placed both hands on the helmet, twisted, lifted. The head came free. Beneath, a skull, elongated, twisted, familiar in its horror, like Hordak, but older, deader. Braxus staggered slightly as the spear shifted in his grip. Thandor reached instinctively, grabbing hold to steady him. The moment their hands met, power exploded between them, a surge, violent, absolute. It tore through armor, through muscle, through thought. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Then they looked at each other, not as brothers, not as falcons, but as enemies. Braxus's grip tightened on the spear. His eyes changed first, not physically, but something behind them, something colder, sharper, stripped of brotherhood. A sneer curled across his face. "You were never ready for this," he said, voice low, venomous. "A pit fighter with a lucky streak, that's all you ever were." Thandor blinked, stunned. "Braxus, I am disgusted," Braxus continued, stepping forward. "That I have to stand beside you, that I have to trust you. You're weak, you hesitate, you think too much." Each word struck harder than a blade. Thandor opened his mouth. "No!" The sorceress's voice crashed into his mind like thunder. "Thandor, this is not who you are, and it is not who Braxus is. The spear, it is influencing you both. It feeds on conflict. It must survive. You must fight it." Thandor staggered back slightly. Braxus yanked the spear fully into his grasp. The pressure in the room intensified. "I should have broken you in training," Braxus growled. Thandor shook his head, trying to push through the fog clawing at his thoughts. "Braxus, listen to me. This isn't you." "Don't tell me who I am." The first shot rang out.
Blaster fire lit the throne room!
Red bolts screamed across the chamber as both men drew and fired without hesitation. Pillars shattered. Stone exploded. The throne cracked under stray fire as they moved, trained, precise, lethal. They knew each other too well. Every angle covered, every movement anticipated. Shots ran dry. Silence. Then they charged. Steel met steel. Braxus hit like a battering ram, driving Thandor backward with raw force. Blows rained down, heavy, relentless, fueled by something darker than anger. Thandor blocked, deflected, gave ground. He couldn't match Braxus's strength, so he changed the fight. He shifted angles, redirected force, let Braxus overcommit. A missed strike became an opening. A stumble became a trap. They crashed through shattered stone, rolled across the floor, trading blows that would have killed lesser men. Braxus grabbed him, lifted him, slammed him down hard enough to rattle bone. Thandor gasped, then twisted. He slipped free, rolled, grabbed the spear mid-motion, and used Braxus's momentum against him. A sweep, a shift, a calculated strike. Braxus hit the ground hard. Thandor stood over him, breath ragged, spear leveled at his throat. The point hovered. One push, and it would end. The throne creaked. Thandor froze. The corpse moved. Not alive, not dead. Something else. The ancient figure turned its skull toward him, mechanical servos whining beneath decayed flesh and armor. Its voice was wrong. "You wish to wield it," it rasped. "Then prove yourself." The spear pulsed in Thandor's hands. Heat, hunger. "Take his life," the figure whispered. "Spill your brother's blood, and the power of the universe will be yours." The voice crawled into his mind. The spear screamed for it. "Do it." The sorceress voice, gone, blocked, drowned beneath the roar of something ancient and cruel. Thandor's grip tightened. He could feel it. The strength, the power, the promise. End it, take it, rise above all. Braxus glared up at him, rage, shame, defiance burning in equal measure.
"Do it!" Braxus spat. "Prove you're not still weak!"
The spear trembled. Thandor's arm tensed. Then, a memory. A beach. A voice. "When you are offered great power, turn it down." Lieutenant Spectre. Clear as day. Thandor exhaled and let go. He hurled the spear across the room. It clattered violently against the stone. The pressure shattered. Silence rushed in. Thandor extended his hand. "I will never betray my brother." Braxus stared at him. Anger flickered, pride wounded, but something deeper, recognition. He took his hand and Thandor pulled him up. "We don't own that," Thandor said, nodding toward the spear. "It goes to the sorceress." Braxus exhaled slowly. Agreed. Behind them, the throne figure let out a grotesque snort, like a pig choking on its own breath. "So be it," it hissed. Then it collapsed. Armor clattered, bones scattered, dead, truly dead. The ship shook, heavy, violent. A new sound echoed through the halls. Boots. Dozens. Marching. Braxus glanced at the spear, then at Thandor.
"Thandor!" the sorceress called. "Enemies have begun to flood the portal here. Please, hurry!"
"How do we get it to home?" Braxus asked. Thandor met his eyes. "Do you trust me?" Braxus hesitated, then nodded. Thandor walked to the spear, picked it up, slung it across his back. The weight felt wrong, but he held it. He turned. "Let's go home." Braxus grabbed Thandor's rifle and tossed it to him. "It won't be easy." He listened, counted. At least 50 Horde bots incoming. They moved to the doorway, weapons reloaded, positions taken. Braxus keyed the comm.
Falcons, update! We're running late.
Move. Braxus didn't wait for acknowledgement. He charged. The corridor exploded into motion. Horde troopers flooded in from both ends, metal bodies snapping to life, red optics blazing as targeting systems locked on. Braxus hit them head-on, a living battering ram. His shield flared as it absorbed the first volley, boots grinding against the floor as the force tried to drive him back. He roared and pushed forward anyway, smashing into the front line, mace swinging in brutal arcs that crushed metal skulls and shattered torsos. "Rear," he barked. "Covered," Thandor answered. Thandor moved backward as he fired, precise, controlled bursts. Each shot found a joint, a lens, a weak seam. Bots dropped, sparked, fell, but more replaced them instantly. They moved as one, forward and back, hammer and scalpel. The hallway became a slaughter tunnel. They ran, fought, ran again. Every turn brought more. Doors burst open, ceilings dropped units from above, floors split to release dormant guards. The ship was awake now, and it wanted them dead. Braxus took the brunt. Blow after blow slammed into him, blaster fire scorching his armor, metal fists denting plates, shock prods sparking across his frame. He absorbed it all and kept moving. Thandor kept them alive, calling turns, picking targets, breaking formations, covering gaps before they formed. Left, 2, low. Braxus adjusted instantly, crushed them. Duck. Thandor fired over his shoulder, dropping a unit mid-leap. They pushed, closer, closer. Then the imps came. Dozens, swarming from vents and machinery, screeching in mechanical tones, not strong, but relentless. They clung, bit, jammed joints, blocked vision.
And behind them,
more Horde troops, too many. The hallway clogged, their momentum died. "This is bad," Braxus growled, staggering slightly as another blast hit his side. "Don't stop," Thandor snapped. But even he felt it, the weight, the numbers, the end creeping in. A blur cut through the chaos. Fast, precise, deadly. A blade flashed. Imps split in half mid-air. A wing slammed into a trooper, sending it crashing into the wall. "Korgan!" Thandor shouted. "About time," came the dry reply. Stravale landed hard beside them. Or tried to. Her wings were broken, bent at unnatural angles, feathers torn and scorched. She leaned heavily on her rifle, breathing hard, but still standing. Korgan stepped forward, one eye gone. The visor on that side shattered, flesh beneath burned and sealed. The remaining eye burned twice as sharp. "You're late," he said flatly. Braxus almost laughed, then coughed instead.
Had to redecorate a throne room.
"Of course you did."
0 hours, 0 minutes, 18 seconds. Their timers screamed. Seconds, that's all they had. "Move," Thandor shouted. They surged as one, a broken line but still a line. They fought like dying stars. Every step forward cost blood, metal, breath. The portal flickered ahead. A tear, in reality, unstable now, shrinking. And through it, chaos. Castle Grayskull was under siege. Horde units poured through the opening, clashing with Falcons, with Clamp-Champ, with man-at-arms. The ancient halls shook with battle.
"Go!" Braxus roared.
Korgan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Braxus, threw him.
Braxus crashed through the portal.
Stravale next. She resisted for half a heartbeat. "Go," Korgan snapped.
She went. Korgan turned. A blast hit him square in the back. He staggered, fell forward through the portal.
0 hours, 0 minutes, 5 seconds. Thandor stood alone. The spear burned against his back. The corridor flooded. No more room, no more time. He pulled the spear free, turned, and drove it into the ground. Power erupted. A wave, a force that slammed outward, sending Horde units flying, crashing into walls, buying him seconds. That's all. He looked once, at the portal, at home. Then he threw the spear. It spun through the air, through the portal, and vanished. The tear snapped shut, gone. Silence. Then the Horde surged again. Thandor exhaled slowly. "All right," he muttered. His rifle clicked empty. He dropped it, drew his sword. "Let's finish this." He fought, step by step, cut by cut. Steel rang against steel, armor cracked, blood, his blood, ran beneath the plates. But he did not stop.
Castle Grayskull!
The last Horde unit fell. Silence crashed down. Champ moved first, grabbing the fallen Falcons, dragging them back. Man-at-arms followed, already issuing orders, hands moving with practiced urgency. "Get them stable. Now." Braxus barely clung to consciousness. Stravale didn't move. Korgan, still. The sorceress had collapsed. The strain had taken everything. King Randor stepped forward. Slowly. He looked at the spear, then at his falcons, then at the empty space where the portal had been. "Did we lose him?" he asked quietly. No one answered. No one knew. Randor picked up the spear. It felt heavier than any weapon had a right to be.
Was this worth it? He asked. The cost of one of our own.
The sorceress stirred weakly. Her hand reached for him, her voice barely a breath. "Yes." Then she fell still. Man-at-arms placed a heavy hand on Randor's shoulder. "We lost more than one." Randor closed his eyes, lowered his head. He set the spear beside the sorceress. All this for the power and honor of Grayskull. He stood there for a long time, thinking of duty, of cost, of what the Crimson Falcons would become. Days later, the ship drifted, silent, broken, harmless, among the stars. In its throne room, a figure sat, armor cracked, body battered, breathing slow. Thandor of Eternos, alone but alive. He leaned back against the cold throne, exhaled, and, despite everything, smiled.